All right, I am making things happen here. Let me know if the sound is okay. I can turn it up, I can turn it down. I have complete control here as long as everything's working. All right, hello everyone. Yeah, I'm starting a minute early. That's okay, isn't it? Yes, I said I would wear my Santa hat, but we're celebrating Sinterklaas, and apparently he wears a mitre rather than the usual Santa hat. And this is the closest thing I have to a mitre here. Hope that works for you all. Okay, but I'm going to take this off now. Don't need it. It's warm enough in my house. And it's kind of distracting, even if it is kind of cute. So off it goes. Also, this way I can show off my new haircut. Look at there. I look civilized. All right. So let's see. What are the discussions about here? So I'm just going to be open to any questions you want to ask. I see already in the chat that people are talking about the Netherlands and Black Peter. Yeah, no Black Peter here. For those of you who don't know, there was a tradition for a long time of Sinterklaas's buddy being Black Peter, who was generally done up all in blackface. And no, we don't do that here. So no, Black Peter's out. John, is it John or is it Jan? In the comments, told a story about how even there in the Netherlands, back in the Bible Belt of the Netherlands, they're backing away from the whole Black Peter story. So yeah, in the Netherlands, even the most benighted people in the Bible Belt are aware that this is not right. And it's here in the United States, we're going the other way, and we're seeing people becoming more and more racist and more awful. So, okay, Yana, got it. All right. Thomas Ruitt asked, did you send out a Zoom link? Yes, I did. There's one on the Patreon page. So people who are on Patreon can find it there and just click on it and you can feel free to join in. Yes, thank you, Phoenix Marine. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say fantastic. It's less shaggy. It's under control at last, and that's all I care about. Let's see what else are people talking. People are talking about the weather. Oh yeah. I have to confess something terrible here. Here I am in Minnesota. We had our first significant snowfall last night. We got a couple inches piled up here. And I've still got these Achilles tendon problems, so there's nothing I can do about it. So my wife has been outside for the last hour shoveling snow. I feel so guilty. Yeah, so she's been out there doing the Minnesota thing of shoveling away. And I looked out a little bit ago and saw that. Hello, Thomas. Anyway, I went outside and looked on her just a little bit ago, and she was in conversation with the neighbors about the weather. It was so Minnesota. Anyway, okay. Yeah, so we got a good bit of snow. It's kind of cool and cold out here, but we'll deal with that. And Thomas joins the chat. How are you, Thomas? You got anything to say or ask here?
Not yet. I'm still waking up and thinking about the snow. My
As I,
dog kind of looked at it and says, "I'm not going out there," and the other one rushes out, rushes back in. So,
yes, as I mentioned, my wife is the one who got saddled with these snow clearing duties right now because no, I think it would be a bad idea if I went outside on this bum ankle of mine and started working, physically working. We can't have that.
we only got an inch or two, so I don't think that warrants bringing out my 11 horsepower snowblower.
Yeah, we maybe. Hey, I can just show everyone. Let's just turn this camera around and look out my window, and you can see it piled up on the bird feeder out there. So yeah, we got maybe inch and a half, 2 inches, and as you can see, there's my wife working away out there. I feel so guilty. Okay, but yeah, we had this all scheduled ahead of time, and I'm not in shape to do all that physical activity. So here I am. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. We got a few points here in Washington State. It is 7 a.m. and 37 degrees. 37 degrees centigrade. That's got to be awful. No, I know it's Fahrenheit. It's not freezing in the Pacific Northwest. My son lives there. My mother lives there. A whole bunch of people live there, and no, they keep bragging about how it's just kind of cool and pleasant out there. So
Well, they just had a heat wave.
yes, that's over with. So now, when I talked to my son the other day, he was saying, "Yeah, I went out fishing, and it's just raining all the time in this place." That's the price you pay for temperate weather and green hills everywhere and tall trees. So I think that's great. I wish I could be living there, but now here I am. I'm in snowbound Minnesota right now, where it's kind of cold. Yeah, what is it out there? It's like 9 degrees, 8 degrees, something centigrade, something like that. So it's cold and it's going to get colder. All right, so let's see. That's the weather. Oh, and yeah, every Minnesota live stream has to start with a discussion of the weather. I think it's required. Let's see. I got a compliment for my video. Yeah, thank you. Last night I just slapped together a video about this whole business of male and female, man and woman, and how the turfs are trying to define this. And the thing that bugs me most about turfs is how inconsistent they are. That what they do is they get into these arguments where they say, okay, well, here's the defining factor. It's a Y chromosome, or it's testosterone, or whatever floats their boat that week. And then you confront them and you say, but you can't define people by the kinds of gametes they produce, for instance. That there's a whole range of things that define womanhood and manhood, and they're culturally determined and they're shared. So, why are you getting so huffy about stating that trans women can't be women? Of course they can be. Even if they're not making sperm or ova, that's not what we use to define these characteristics. And honestly, I don't know the gonadal state of most of the human beings I deal with. Yes. Oh, may I ask why you disregard all non-biological uses of female and not just the way people use it as a noun to refer to people? How do you propose replacing the adjective female? Oh, well, yeah, some of that's personal. That as I mentioned in the video, one of the things I have to do all the time is, even with my spiders right now, I go in and I have to categorize them. This is a male, this is a female. Can I put them together and get a productive mating going and get egg sacs out of them, all that kind of stuff? So I actually have no problem with using the term that way. However, it makes me really uncomfortable to refer to people, for instance, my students, as male and female then, because there's all these associations in my head with, oh, that's a statement about the reproductive capability. And no, I really don't care about, except in a humane sense, about how my students are going to reproduce. That's not my business. It shouldn't be my business. So I get it. And also there's another thing I didn't mention in the video that pisses me off, and that is calling people male and female has become cop terminology. Yeah, we just categorize people by, oh, that's a black female, that's a white female, that's a black man, that's a white man, as if that immediately puts them into reasonable legal categories. And I just feel like it doesn't. Okay. Yeah, no, I will get to that in a moment. That's a good question. So anyway, this has been simmering for a long time in my head, as I really dislike that terminology. It's dehumanizing and it's reductive. And why are we doing that? Yes, and you asked, what would I use instead? Well, I would use, for human beings, I would use man and woman, right? So it's the simplest, cleanest summary that, yeah, and of course, then there's always, of course, the ace people and the people who don't want to be addressed by a gender, and that's perfectly legitimate too. I will respect that. That's the way it should be. And I will continue to talk about male spiders and female spiders. That's because in that case, yeah, I do have a vested interest in their reproductive abilities that I do not for human beings. Let's see. Related. Would you make a video about genders and all that, like the basics, similar to why you made videos explaining why evolutionary psychology is BS? Huh. Yeah, I maybe we'll see. I've made my statement on this topic right now. The next video I have in my head to talk about next week is about intelligent design. But maybe we'll see. It's one of those things that'll probably come up again because right now the turfs are steaming mad at me. So of course it'll come up again, but we'll see. Yana says, am I the only one who can't hear a turf say female without hearing a Ferengi say it? Yeah, same here. Right. That's also kind of a cultural bias that taints the whole discussion here. Yeah. I know we kind of look for these supposedly neutral terms to refer to the identity of people, and I don't think female and male cut it. I'll just, they're people. Isn't that enough? We'll just talk about people. Okay, then we got oh, here, let's change the topic. I got a video out on this topic. Go watch that video and we can discuss it. So here's another interesting question. I know it is not quite your student base, but I wonder if you have any ideas for outdoor biology activities that are a little more educational about evolution, I guess, evolution-wise, than mere collecting for five to six kids. 5 to 6 kids or 5 to 6 year olds, I don't know. Yeah, the problem with these kinds of outdoor activities for testing evolution is slow, generally speaking. And my problem with dealing with younger kids or groups of kids is that their attention spans and their time available don't quite match what we need to do that. So it's a struggle. Yeah, one of the things I'm hoping to do this summer, and my wife and I were planning to do this 2 years ago, and then the stupid pandemic got in the way, is trying to organize some activities at our local library for the kids, for, in this case, spiders. And yeah, spider collect, just go out and collect spiders. That's not quite enough. What makes it relevant for evolution is when I first started working with these spiders in this area, I was stunned because, hey, spiders, they're just spiders, right? They're just a bunch of spiders out there. And most people don't look closely. But then you discover that there is so much diversity in spider communities around here. Even in frigid, cold Minnesota, that for instance, there's like 3 really common species of jumping spiders that I find on my house. And then there's about a half dozen others that I have found sporadically here. So how do we interpret that? And I when I started my first project here working with spiders, our project was, let's go categorize, let's count and assess the population of the spider I had chosen to work on, which was Parasteatota, because Parasteatota is kind of a common developmental model now. And what do I find? There's a whole bunch of different related species out there. Why? There's Parasteatota tepidoriorum and there's Parasteatota tabulata, and I can't tell them apart. When I talk to experts, they can't tell them apart except by dissecting their genitalia. Yeah, you got to kill them and tease apart their genitals to see the shape of that particular opening in females, and that's the only way you can tell them apart. And I think that's kind of important for thinking about evolution, is how these different species can be very, very closely related, yet are so different from each other. They don't mate with each other. Why? How did that happen? And then, of course, the other things that are happening are, I'm poking around, and there's Steatota triangulosa, which looks just like Parasteatota, except it's got this zigzaggy stripe instead of a mottled pattern on the abdomen. And of course, it's a distinct species. It's even a distinct genus, although after reading the spider literature, I'm beginning to doubt the fidelity and the accuracy of the classification schemes we use. They start seeming very arbitrary. But anyway, so there's that, and then there's the false black widows around here. They're not black widows. They look like them. They have the big dark color, but they don't have the little red hourglass on the abdomen, etc. So there's all this stuff going on. How do we deal with this? It's kind of a pressing question that I've never had to deal with before, because I've always worked in model systems. Model systems, you isolate the species you want and you take it away from its environment, from everything else, and you study that. And this is a whole different world for me, which is kind of exciting. So anyway, that's kind of what I was thinking of for the kids, is let's just have them, do collecting. Let's look at the different spiders out there and then come together and say, okay, why? What do these spiders have that makes them distinct? What is their evolutionary history that makes them so different? The other thing is, another thing I was concerned with, that I'm kind of interested in pursuing, is the whole climate change issue. That we're seeing a shift. And again, this is not something it's easy to demonstrate to kids in a classroom or in a field setting, You need to do some traveling to do that. But, when my daughter was living in Colorado, I went down there and did some collecting, and they have a different distribution of species there. Why? Well, the climate's different. So this is a highly relevant subject because we're seeing gradual climate change here. What is that going to do to the different species that we find present in our little community here? If I had to make a guess, I would say, okay, we're going to see more of the false widows, and the Parasteatoda is going to end up retreating into houses where it's a little safer. And then we got to wonder how are they going to cope with the change in the climate, because we are getting warmer, but we're still going to have severe winters. And if you've got a species from Kansas, like Latrodectus, they're not going to be able to cope very well with the strong winters, even though the summer may be great for them. Even now, they migrate up with our vacation travelers in the summer. So we'll see. Okay, yeah, Phoenix, I agree. Educating kids is extremely important. So Yana says, I wonder if there's something we could collect that we might be able to fit into a phylogenetic tree. Yes, that what part of what I was planning is there are these excellent resources out there. There's iNaturalist, there's also Bug Guide, which are wonderful because you can, even if you're a taxonomic novice like me, you can use them to help you figure out what a species is. And then they display trees that illustrate where it falls. Bug Guide is better about the phylogenetic diagrams than iNaturalist, but you can go either way. And so that would be part of the program as well, as we collect spiders, we compare spiders, we photograph them, and that can be half the fun, is just taking pictures of these cool little, arachnids. And then we ask Bug Guide or iNaturalist where these fit in the grand family of spiders that live in our community. And yeah, so last time I was at the arachnology meetings, that's one of the things they did is they had a whole session on just using iNaturalist for taxonomic field work and identification of species and all that kind of good stuff. Yes, Brainbug says Bug Guide is amazing. I agree. It's got a, in some ways, iNaturalist is easier to use. It's really simple to take a picture and upload it, and then you wait for people to comment and give you an ID and all that kind of stuff. But Bug Guide, I feel like, goes into greater depth than iNaturalist. iNaturalist is at the image recognition and collecting stage of taxonomy, and that's fine, that's good. But Bug Guide has a lot of taxonomic information. Okay, so who else is Phantom Maniperv? Yeah, he says, okay, if you want to discover new species, the best place to look is in your backyards. I kind of agree. I feel stupid because, as I said, I was a model systems guy. I was working on zebrafish for so long. And it's only when I stepped into my backyard and started poking around, actually my garage and my basement, my attic and the backyard, that I started realizing how amazing the diversity is just in these areas. And then my wife planted a natural garden, just local species and all that stuff in our backyard. And suddenly the number of species just shot up right there. It was so vivid and clear to see. And man, lawns are evil, I've decided. They really limit the amount of diversity that can be present. So I tell everybody now, go out and plant some other stuff. Don't just plant things that you find useful to yourself or that are pretty, because yeah, roses, sure, okay, yeah, you can plant roses, that's fine, but also think about all the other plants that you can find up in this region that are native to the region, plant those, and you would be astounded at how much it happens. So like this summer, I went out there, and what do I find? Moths and butterflies and all kinds of diptera, all flocking to this area, as well as the spiders, and just this huge amount of diversity that meant I could have a lot of fun with my camera out there. And I've heard the same thing from other people, that people who are not biologists but are, for instance, macro photographers. They will tell you, if you want good stuff to look at, just plant some interesting plants, and you'll see.
So, easy. This is
Yes.
Tom. Are spiders edible?
Well, they're tiny here. Apparently, in Cambodia, they have lots of these big tarantulas, and it's actually a street delicacy to cook up tarantulas. But then they're about this big, so you actually get a handful of stuff, and you just spoon out the insides and eat them, kind of like
my.
lobsters.
Well, there's that new American Indian restaurant downtown Minneapolis, and we went there, and on their menu, they have a salad, and one of the things on the salad are toasted crickets. So,
Oh yeah,
I was
crickets.
wondering if they had
I've had crickets.
spiders too.
Yeah, that's really cool. What restaurant is this? What's the name of it?
It's right kind of at the intersection of I-35 and Washington Avenue, so just across
I-35.
from the
Okay.
West Bank. And God, I can't think of I'll think of the name here in a minute.
Well, that's enough. I can look it up. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
it's really good. The food is amazing.
Oh,
So it's
oh,
all indigenous food, and it's made by the Sioux chef, the Souix Sioux chef.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds like field trip material right
worth a
there.
visit.
Yeah, we've been kind of restricted because of the pandemic, so we haven't gotten out much. And when we do, it's mainly to visit my son in St. Cloud or my daughter in Eau Claire. So we haven't been doing as much traveling as we used to. But yeah, if things ease up, I hope, then maybe we'll be able to get out to Minneapolis, because there are so many good restaurants down there on Eat Street and all those other places that we miss. We have here in Morris, we have a Mexican restaurant, and we have one of those mundane Chinese restaurants that cropped up all over. The Mexican restaurant's pretty good. The Chinese restaurant, if you want variety, you can go there. But that's about it. That's the limit of our ethnic variability in this area. But on the other hand, the Mexican scene is really growing fast. I was just there yesterday because I was out shopping for some ingredients for some soup I was making. We have La Tienda, which is a Mexican grocery. And I went browsing through there, and there was so much stuff I have never heard of before. And so I'm making it my mission over a Christmas break. I am going to look this stuff up, and I'm going to start making, as authentic as I can, Mexican foods here at home, and just using all these exotic ingredients, exotic to us. And my wife is all for that, because she's lately had a kick about diversity in foods, and she keeps telling me, make different things. And so I've been stretching my abilities a little bit here. So that would be a good thing to do. Okay. So as I said, once this pandemic eases up, I'm going to try and make that. And I see in the chat that people are discussing the Omicron variant. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, wait. I got to go back a little bit here. We also got a recommendation of blackberries. Blackberries are not native to Minnesota, though. I don't think. I know they're not native to the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, they've kind of taken over in some areas. And yeah, they're delicious. My son planted blackberries in his backyard. That may be a mistake. We'll see. But yeah, so yeah, there's stuff there. Let's see, another comment. Dolomites can be quite large. Yeah, so the fishing spiders that live around here, I don't know if they're quite to the size you'd want to eat them, and they're not exactly numerous. I mean, they're common. Go to any lake and you'll find them all around the outside of the lake. Uh, but I don't know if I'd want to harvest a bunch of Dolomites and try and make a dish with them. Yeah, nobody else would eat it anyway. So yeah, not going to do that. Okay, so Omicron. What are we going to do about Omicron? This is a growing concern. I am concerned not necessarily about Omicron, but that we are so bad at maintaining ourselves in this pandemic, and that's what worries me. Yeah, it's kind of horrible the way we're doing things. We keep doing these half measures, and it just makes it all worse. So the latest word I've heard on Omicron is, yeah, it seems to be more transmissible. So it might replace Delta. It's kind of early to tell, but maybe it will. It's got a huge number of new mutations in it, which some people are speculating might make it more fragile. So it's not going to do as well, but we'll see. And there's virtually no data on its severity, on the lethality of its effects, because so few people have been affected by it so far. Last week we hit our first case in Minnesota. I hear we're up to 2 or 3. You can't assess mortality with 2 or 3 people. And then there's anecdotal accounts that some people have seen severe effects in young people as well, but we don't know. And it may be readily managed by the vaccine. Again, we'll have to wait and see. So, my feeling is Omicron is bad news, but it's bad news because it tells us that new variants are going to continue to crop up. That we're not done. Not yet. That there will be new stuff coming along, and we're just doing such a terrible job of managing it. I am not surprised that the first case, the second case in the entire United States. The first was in San Francisco, but the second case was in Minnesota, because, oh man, we have just been so lackadaisical about it. I'm really unimpressed with our governor, because he took forever to decide, oh, we got to implement lockdowns, we got to wear masks and all this kind of stuff. And then at the first sign of abeyance of the pandemic, he said, oh, we're back to normal now. So yeah, this is one of those things where, it's like antibiotics. You're given a prescription and told to take it for 10 days or whatever. And it's bad news if you do it for 2 or 3 days and you say, hey, my symptoms have alleviated, so I can just stop taking it, because the bacterium is still in your system and it's been selected now. The ones in your system are the ones that are resistant. So you got to keep slamming them hard with that. That's why they tell you to take it for this length of time. And they don't. Hey, Scott, good to see you here. So anyway, the same thing with the COVID is, yeah, we should have maintained the lockdown. We should have worn masks. We should have done all this stuff for a longer period of time, just to really squelch it, and it didn't happen. So, Scott, what are you up to? Humanism, right?
Oh yeah, not too much. Yeah. It's a Sunday morning, as you can see. I haven't showered yet, just sort of relaxing, enjoying it, because we've got winter arriving finally in Minneapolis.
Yeah, we got it here too. We were talking about this earlier, about how my wife is now outdoors working on it. Yeah. She's a strong peasant woman. She can do this. Yeah, to be terribly sexist about it. No, it's just I got ankle problems, so no, I can't do it. And She is a very responsible person, and at the first sign of snow, she's out there clearing the sidewalks, setting a good example for the community. And
Yeah, I'll get
normally,
that. We've got wind chill kicking in for the first time, so that'll make life interesting.
yeah, she's been
So,
out there for an hour and a half now. I'm getting a little worried. She's going to be so cold when she gets back in. So when this stream ends at 10 o'clock, I'm going to have to go fix something hot and tasty for her so she can warm up a little bit.
Hey, PZ, I pasted the name of that restaurant website
Oh,
to it. It's
Womney.
Womney.
Yeah.
Have you been
I'm
there,
gonna,
Scott?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
okay.
It's a good, interesting place to go.
Yes, I'm gonna have to try it myself. Yeah, so right now we have 3 Minnesota people here. We have a bunch of other people in the chat though, so that's okay. Yeah, let's see what else we got. Yeah, so we were just talking about Omicron, and yeah, so Yana mentions it spreads faster but causes lesser symptoms. I think it's too early to say that. I just don't know. We've got so few people, and we'll see. Okay.
So you want to talk about the movie Dune?
Ooh,
Anybody seen? I've seen it. It's
yes.
really good.
Yes, I did see it. I really liked it.
I did as
Yeah,
well. I went to go see it in a theater actually, so I was quite pleased
Mhm.
with it.
Me too.
Ah.
I have the advantage though that I'm in a small town, and when I went to the theater, I was the only person there. So
Huh.
yeah, I don't have to worry about pandemic. I can just go pick the right time, and I don't have to worry about it.
I watched it at a friend's house on HBO Max on his 75-inch TV. So, but I still had to read the captions, or on some of them, because he can't see very well. So even though we're sitting 4 feet from the screen, he couldn't read the text. But
Oh,
he's read all the books twice. He knows the book.
oh, all the books. Yeah, he's hardcore because I read the first book
Yeah.
and really liked it, and then I started the second book and decided that he'd fallen off a cliff somewhere. And
Yeah. Well, I got up to Chapter House Dune. I got halfway through that, and it started to become a big political thing. So I got kind of bored.
yeah, well, the politics are kind of the core of it, but
Yeah.
still, these were weird politics, and I, yeah, so I stopped there, but yeah, the first one, I'm looking forward to the second movie to complete the
Yeah, it
story.
should be good.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a fun discussion about it on Charlie Jane Anders and Annalie Newitt's podcast called Our Opinions Are Correct. And they reran an episode from about a year ago talking about Dune. And
Oh.
they did a nice job. They had a guy who'd wrote a pretty serious essay on it. So I'd recommend listening to that. It's a half hour, and those two are quite good with their stuff. It's a fun podcast.
Right. Okay. I'll look into. You guys are keeping me busy. Now I got to go to an American Indian restaurant in Minneapolis, and I got to listen to a podcast while I'm on the way.
Well, I got
my
a good
plan.
movie for you to watch too.
Yeah.
And it's the 1940 film, Charlie Chaplin film called The Great Dictator.
Well, I've
And
seen it. Hasn't everyone?
yes, I've seen it too. There's also a guy who does a 25-minute documentary on it that's extremely good, because you get a lot of background about how much trouble he had trying to make the film and all that, and the fact that he was way ahead in terms of predicting what was going to happen in World War II.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
But that final speech that's priceless.
Right. Yes, I can think of a lot of people who ought to listen to that speech now, because it's pretty solid stuff. Yeah, and of course, then he's a contemporary of Henry Ford, who was going in the opposite direction. And I think Henry Ford kind
Yeah.
of won the culture war, which is really unfortunate.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
if you
it's a
want humor, there's always Iron Sky and Iron Sky 2. They're
oh,
both available on Prime, I believe. Those are hilarious.
totally over the top though.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
yes.
definitely.
Uh-huh. Let's see another movie. Well, my wife, I just saw it last or day before yesterday. It was what was really good is Last Night in Soho. Anyone else seen it?
It is on my list. I know that. I
Yeah,
haven't.
I'm a big Edgar Wright fan, and I don't think it was quite as good as Baby Driver, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. But it's a ghost story, and it's got a few twists and turns that I didn't see coming. Um, and it's and some parts of it were truly horrifying. Yeah, we came home from it. My wife was talking about it for over an hour. Just she was really into it. So I don't know. I think it's a good movie. Ought to try it.
And I got
It's
brave and took on Apple's Foundation.
oh really?
Yeah,
I
the
you know
first
I didn't like Asimov's Foundation series to begin with, so I haven't been enthused about it. But
it,
what did you think?
the first two episodes were a little rocky, but then I got hooked on it because they were then playing playing with the politics of the issue of the people on Terminus. We also had the Emperor clones. It's been so long since I read it, but they have the Cleons being a 400-year legacy of clones. So they always have three clones alive at one time. They have what they call Father or Brother Dusk, who's the elder clone. They have Brother Day, who's the middle-aged, basically reigning clone, and then they have Brother Dawn, who's the younger one who's getting trained. And it's
Uh-huh.
really quite fascinating. Playing around, they have jump drive ships, and then they have others, and then Terminus itself they have set up being rather frigid and cold and barren, and dealing with the encyclopedia section where the guys who are thinking that they're creating this big font of knowledge finally figure out, oh no, you're just here to survive, kids. So that's what you get to do. And having the politics with the other stuff going on, and interesting religious cult that the middle emperor decides to go through, and doing some time jumping, which helps. So
Uh-huh.
I started getting into it after that, because after the first episode, I'm going, yeah, but I decided to stick with it. So I'm going to give it another run through and see what I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no,
Sure.
I had very mixed feelings about it because, like I said, I didn't care much for Asimov's book at all. You know, for one thing, it's standard old school science fiction. There are no women in it.
Oh, yeah. What's nice
Yeah.
though in the series is they've gender flipped a number of characters. So it's the same character name. They've just
Oh,
made them female, which is a really good move, and a nice diverse cast as well.
yeah, that'll make some people angry, but okay.
The of course. I mean, Harry Seldom is still an old white guy, but his
Yeah, but
assistant.
the actor, I really like the actor they
Oh
had
yeah,
for
Jared Harris is just plain
yes.
fun to watch and things. So
Yes, he's been good in everything I've ever seen that he's been in. So yeah, that was a plus.
that is a
Uh
plus. Like Gail Dornack, who's the in the book is the character we meet first. They changed to being she is a black female who is a
uh-huh.
mathematician that comes from a planet that basically shoots at scientists. And so yeah, so
Oh,
they're playing
that's
some
a
interesting things.
uh-huh. Okay.
They did that in the was it? I think it's Netflix, or I can't remember. It's the new Lost in Space series, and Dr.
It's
Smith is a
Netflix.
woman. Okay, Netflix. Yeah, Dr. Smith is a very evil
Oh,
woman.
Yeah,
She's
Parker
pretty
Posey plays
entertaining.
her, and she's quite fascinating.
Yes, she is.
Oh, yeah.
After the first one got done being a little weird with its, well, really bad with its science, the
Yeah.
first season I got into it. The second season was a fun adventure, and third season just dropped, and I haven't gotten to it yet.
Uh-huh.
Yep, I noticed that too, and I was gonna say I had the same thing. The first season, but the second season was better.
And I love Molly Parker. She actually saves the whole thing because she's playing Maureen Robinson, and they have her being the main character versus it being John Robinson, which is quite fun. So they have her as being a really smart scientist who's also a tough lady in charge because they're stuck in space with their fairy ship now kind of semi-toast. So it'll be interesting to see how this it's the last season.
Uh-huh.
And then the other thing, have you checked out For All Mankind off of Apple as well?
I haven't subscribed to Apple, so no, I haven't.
Okay. If you get it, when you get a chance, catch that one. That is basically exploring the moon as an alternative history. What happens in the storyline is the Russians beat us to the moon by a month. And as we like to say in some stories, complications ensue. The creating producer is Ron Moore, who worked on Next Gen and DS9 and the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. So he's brought in a really neat bunch of people to help write, including a number of expatriate Star Trek writers. So they're doing a really job of keeping the physics and the moon exploring real while getting into the politics and playing around that they now are in an alternative timeline so they can have fun.
Okay, another one to add to my list, but I don't know if I'm going to subscribe to Apple in the near future. We'll see. There's just too many of these services. It's getting balkanized, and I'm getting lost.
Oh,
And there's so much TV on any one of them that it's more than I can watch. So
I found, as a guy who's been keeping an eye on science fiction TV for a lifetime, there are now science fiction series out there that I have never heard of and much less not even watched.
Right.
Which I find extremely fun and scary and cool at the same time.
Yes. Oh, and
with,
go ahead.
I was going to say with YouTube, I discovered a few things. Like there's a pilot episode to the original Lost in Space that was never aired, and that's on YouTube. It's actually kind of interesting. But it kind of blends into the first episode as well. But yeah, there's way more stuff than I can watch. So.
Yes.
And like BritBox has in the US Blake 7 for like the first time to people that can access for like 20 years.
Wow.
That's probably how long ago I saw it. So
yep, because my DVD copy is a bootleg on that, because they never released the series in US on DVD, which is really crazy. But now it's on BritBox, which is cool. So a whole new generation can come find it finally.
I wonder if David Gorski has noticed. Orak knows.
Okay.
He took his name from Blake 7. So
okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably does.
Probably. Yeah.
And Charlie Jane Anders is also quite a Blake 7 fan. She did a panel at Convergence, and they have our opinions are correct on Blake 7, which is quite cool.
Uh-huh. Oh, speaking of which, Convergence, is it happening this next year? This summer?
As far as I know, it is. We went live with my convention, DiversaCon, this last summer. We're small. We had 65 people. I was quite pleased about that. I run small anyway. We're a small literate convention. And so we had 2 local writers. We had Michael Merriam and Abra Staff and Weeby as our guests. And that went well. We even had to move to a new hotel. So we did okay. So we're going live again next year. And Aaron Sisko is going to be our guest. He's a black guy who's neat in science fiction and is part of the USS Fitzgerald, which is one of the local Trek clubs, and they sponsor TC Trek Trivia, which is a Star Trek trivia contest once a month, which is quite fun.
Okay, that sounds fun.
So, yep, and we're
Yeah.
at the end of July, and we're nice and cheap. We're at the Crown Royal Minneapolis West, which is
Okay.
over off of 55 next to 494 or 694 over there.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, if the pandemic eases up, and it may not, I will be on the rebound, and I will want to go to lots of conferences this summer. I've got my arachnology conference, Convergence. Hey, maybe I should throw Diversicon into the mix. We'll see.
I'll put a list of restaurants together for you to choose from.
Okay. Oh man, I gotta lose weight too, and you're not going to help there. But yeah, that
I
sounds
know. I have the same problem. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, new restaurant. Let's go feed ourselves.
Yeah. That's another virtue of living in Morris. We don't have new restaurants. Once a decade, maybe we'll get a new restaurant here. So yeah, we got to outsource. We got to go traveling to see this stuff. Let's see. Let me take a look at the chat real quick and see what I'm missing, because we've been charging off without. Let's see. There's the Netherlands is heading back into full-blown lockdown. Yeah, okay. That's really what we ought to do. We're not doing it here. I have been told by my administration that I'm teaching all my classes in person next semester. So we're going to pretend everything is normal. I'm hoping we keep the mask mandate in place for the university. Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if the governor doesn't come down and say, no, you don't have to wear masks anymore, but we do. So we'll see. Let's see.
Yeah, my employer was starting bring us back to office in summer. We started with a volunteer crew in July. And then when Delta hit, they basically put it on hold. So we're back to being mostly people at home. You can still go into the office if you want, but you have to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated on that. So,
right.
On that part of it.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this too, because teaching online is just so different from in person. And it's all these little, and it's in some ways, I'm not the best person to be doing this, because for instance, I discovered this past week that I missed some essential emails from students, because I get so much email, just stuff pouring in, that it's been hard to sort it out. And yeah, I've done things like I've put in mail filters to guarantee that all the good stuff from my students comes to me, high priority. And then some of these students, what do? They go home and they post on, I don't know, Yahoo Mail or something. And so having it in person has some virtues. We'll see. Okay. Oh, let's see. We got some other comments here. Russian sci-fi. Oh, what do you know about Russian sci-fi?
Not as much as I should. I'm going to give Adrian, I think it's Tchaikovsky, a try soon. But right now,
yeah, but he's British. He's not Russian.
Okay, never mind then. I've read some old Stanislaw Lem, just a couple of his pieces, Solaris and a couple of others. I think Spaceman Pricks, yeah, but that's been decades on that. And there's a very fascinating Russian movie that borderlines on sci-fi called Stalker, and Criterion put out in addition to that.
Borderlines, that is sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting movie. I mean, if anybody liked Annihilation, they will like Stalker. It got that same kind of otherworldly distortion of reality, and it's kind of fun and good to get into. So yeah. So I recommend that.
Yeah, and Criterion put out an edition which makes it even cooler. They make movies I would not wander over to. It's like, okay, they're putting it out. They just made it sound interesting. It's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, the media overwhelms us. There's just so much stuff out there. So let's see. But I kind of like Adrian Tchaikovsky. I mean, some of his stuff kind of got really, really out there, and I didn't care for it much. But his series about spiders is great. Maybe it's because I'm biased, but yeah, he wrote a whole novel about a science fiction novel about spiders evolving into super intelligence. And then the sequel to that had spiders and squids in space. So yeah, that's
Yep.
cool stuff.
What I'm reading right now is it just came out last week is Leviathan Falls, which is the final book of the Expanse novel series on that.
Oh.
So that's great fun. And then the last season on Amazon premieres on Friday, the final season of the Expanse, the TV series.
Right.
So
Yes, but it's going to be a short series, isn't it? Wasn't it like 6 episodes or something, and then they're done?
Yeah, they
I don't
weren't
know how
doing
they're
too
gonna-
many. So they're basically through that part of it, which is just at the tag of Nemesis games, and I'm moving into Babylon's Ashes on that. At that point, they do a jump forward by about 30 years at that point. So the current, so where they went stayed rather contemporaneous, and then that they had the big jump forward and started doing things. And now Leviathan's Fall is both Amos and Jim know that there is something out that wants to kill humanity. And so now we're trying to find out how they figure it out.
Okay, which they will not get to into this Amazon series because it's just not.
But it's been a fun book series.
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh yeah,
not.
I've read the first. I've read the first couple of them.
They stay
Go
fun.
ahead.
It's a nicely written series for one that has gone out to 9 books, and every once in a while they an author sort of loses steam or heads off into the wilderness when they're running on a series that long. But these guys have kept it basically on theme and doing pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I 9 books. It feels like it's just too heavy a burden to dig into. But yeah, I read the first couple and they were fun. I enjoyed them. We'll see if ever I have the free time. I'll probably keep going with it, but
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. I can't imagine. I can imagine that the series has been truncated because that thing's got to be expensive to make. Yeah, that's not a cheaply made series. So,
have you seen how they make the Mandalorian, the one that's on Disney?
I also don't subscribe to Disney, so I haven't seen.
I
that
don't either,
either.
but the kids across the street do. But I saw there was a there's a YouTube video about how they make it, and what they, instead of a green screen, they used a a 75-foot wide display.
Yeah, and this giant curved LED monitor system with just seamless huge thing, which oh man, I can't imagine how much that costs. But I'd love to have it for my office.
Oh yeah. And Discovery just built one of those for shooting their 4th season, so they're now using that.
Yeah,
we have a big one in Walter Library at the U there. So.
Oh,
not a real big one, but it's, I don't know, 15 feet wide or something. Yeah,
but 15 feet is pretty. I'm sitting here with a 34-inch wide monitor, which was just eye-opening when I got it. But now I'm thinking, 15 feet, that's what I need.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 3 feet is not enough. I got to go 5 times that, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that people in the chat speak up. Is there anything you want me to talk about here before we wrap up here very shortly? Yeah, let's see. Yes, I do love my spiders. Oh, Phoenix Marine asked about the spiders. I should give you an up-to-date story on there. Yeah. So I set up a whole bunch of them, something like 150 little baby freshly hatched spiderlings in what was it, September thereabouts. And I've just been struggling to get enough flies to feed them. And so then the 2 weeks ago, I sat down and went through them all, and I culled the colony and got rid of the ones that were weak or dying and looked horrible, and or the ones that were already dead. And now the spider colony is down to about 50. And so I'm going in a couple times a week and throwing lots and lots of flies at them to fatten them up. I'm hoping that this spring I will have full-grown adults. They're all kind of juvenile at this point, which you can tell by looking at their palps. But I'm thinking the next molt will have small adults that are ready to breed. So we'll see. We'll be working on that. So yeah, they're up and coming. It's one of my struggles has been that during the summer I can just go out and collect as many spiders as I want, and then, hey, have you looked outside in Minnesota right now? There's a real shortage of spiders. So now I'm reliant entirely on the colony, and they're not quite old enough yet. So we're waiting for them to start producing eggs so I can do some developmental biology. In a related thing, my wife and I also went out in our backyard 2 weeks ago, and we laid out some logs and big stones and things, not the usual thing you want in a lawn, to provide habitat for any little invertebrates that want to escape the cold weather. And so probably around about February or March, I'm going to check on those and see if we've got anything living under there. We'll find out there. Let's see. Zachary says, love your video and answering creationist questions. Keep it up. Okay, I will. Yes, as I mentioned, the one I've got in mind for next week is looking at intelligent design. I found this guy on intelligent design on YouTube who's incredibly annoying. His channel is called Deflate. I don't know why, but he's got a bunch of videos where he's just basically regurgitating Stephen Meyer's line on intelligent design. I feel like I gotta address some of that nonsense. So that's on my list of things to do, maybe next week, unless something else distracts me. You never know.
Yeah, John Stone Street over at taking over the Colson Center from the late and very thankfully dead Chuck Colson, gets all excited about Stephen Meyer. It's just plain annoying. The man has confirmation bias that's just
Yes.
amazing when it comes to evolution, gays, and women.
Yeah. I've read Stephen. I didn't read his last one because I've given up. But Stephen Meyer he says the same thing 50 or 60 or 100 times over and over in his books, and it's such shallow garbage. Yeah, he never defines design, for instance. So things look designed, therefore they are designed, over and over again. And that's the whole point we're arguing over. Do these birds that I see flittering around outside right now, are they designed? Do you have a way to test whether they're designed? Because as near as I can tell, they're evolved organisms.
You look under their feathers on their belly, and if it says Boeing or Lockheed, then you know they're designed.
Yes. or they've got a serial number.
Right.
Yeah. Like in Blade Runner, there was that scene where, in the original Blade Runner, where they pulled off a scale from the snake and they put it under a super duper electron microscope, which apparently anybody on the street could own then. and they find the serial
My
number.
neighbor has
So they,
one.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right there in his house?
Her house, yeah. She's a retired Mike from Medtronics. I don't know how she got a hold of this thing, but she does this for consulting business.
Wow. Okay.
I used to have a supercomputer in my basement. In fact, it was in this room, but it's all gone now.
Yeah, man. When I used to do electron microscopy, just the service contract on those things would kill you. So no, this was in the 80s and 90s, but then it was like $10,000 to $15,000 a year you had to pay just to keep your thing running. Oh, but on other good news, let me just mention my colleague here at UMM, with my name on it, as well as another person in the department, just got awarded a grant to purchase a sort of a confocal microscope. So we're going to be getting that in January. It'll be really cool. It's not a laser scanning confocal. That's too expensive, but it's what is it called? It uses a full spectrum sheet of light to illuminate, and I'm getting eager. I want to try this with my spiders. Earlier I mentioned in this chat that the spiders I study, there's these related species, and you have to dissect them to figure out which species they are. You got to get right into the epigyne to see what's going on. And I'm thinking, I bet you if I use this microscope, I could just knock out a spider, put it on there, and scan its genitalia and get a three-dimensional image of it. That will do the job for me. Okay, and I really have to wrap this up. But one last question: Does it? I think you mean intelligent design finally meet the qualifications of a hypothesis? No, it does not. Yeah, a hypothesis has to build on prior work and provide a way to test it. And no, intelligent design does not, because apparently anything will fit the hypothesis of intelligent design. So no, it does not work. Okay, well, it is after 10. I try to keep these to an hour, and so I'm going to have to break it off. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Thanks, Scott and Thomas, for appearing here. I will probably do this again in a couple weeks sometime. We'll see. Yeah, maybe next time I'll make it a Christmas event so I can have an excuse to wear my Santa hat. But
Scheduling on the 25th. I'm not doing anything.
Yes, I'm not really doing anything on the 25th either, except, as I mentioned earlier, I got this ambition to try some really deep Mexican cuisine. So I may be spending a lot of time cooking on Christmas time. We'll see. It's just me and the wife, so I'm not going to cook a lot of things, but we'll see what happens. All right, so I will say goodbye to everybody.
Okay.
Thanks for popping in, and
Adios.
we'll talk to you all later.
Got your email address, Thomas, so I'll be in touch.
Excellent.
Very
Wonderful.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
where am I?
Bye-bye.
I gotta